Here's the first thing. So you're at the end of Family Feud. Anybody watch Family Feud? Ever? Okay. You're at the end of Family Feud, and it's the speed round, and I don't even know who's hosting it. Was it Steve Harvey? Is he still doing it?
Yes.
Okay. So he says, Tim, name an occupation most people would consider professional.
Water softener sales.
That most people, that would maybe not be the number one answer. Okay, survey says, right. Number one answer. I don't want Tim in my family if we're on that game, okay? Because he was like,
Consider where those surveys are taken.
you're right, yeah. We want the number one answer. What is it? Doctor. I would say doctor is probably, maybe lawyer or attorney, but I would say doctor or attorney is probably number one answer. So let's look at a doctor. Okay, I show you a picture, and I would agree a water treatment sales professional should be professional, okay, absolutely. But number one answer, I say most people would consider a doctor to be professional. Now, why have they earned that? We show you a picture of somebody. How do we immediately, you don't even know this person, we start assuming certain things about them, don't we? Okay, how do we identify them as a doctor first and foremost?
College educated?
Well, we're looking at a picture. Yeah, they're white coat, stethoscope, so they have a uniform on, right? Now, there are certain things, you're absolutely right, Kevin, that there are certain things that we assume about them automatically. We assume that they have some education. How much education? Lots, right? At least 8 years plus several more in internships. Okay, we assume, and what about continued education? Once they graduate college, are they required to continue their education? Okay, so we've looked at their attire, we've looked at their education. Do they contribute to the industry that they're in? Absolutely, they're required to. By law, they have to have continued education and they have to submit to medical journals. Okay, so they have to submit or contribute to their own field. What about income? What do we assume about their income? Above average income. Hours, they 9 to 5, punch time clock? No, they work till the job's done, right?
12, 14 hours.
At least, yeah, absolutely, okay? So, I mean, there are certain things that we assume about them. Now that's as a professional. And here's my approach to this whole thing that we do. I think that we can emulate, I think that we can become water treatment sales professionals, and I don't think it is just semantics. I think that if we look at the characteristics that make others professional, then we can emulate that, we can copy it. So, let's start with uniforms. Okay, I see most of you in here are wearing, I can identify who you work for. You have uniforms on. Okay, I can identify you. When you walk into the home, your customers, do they identify you for who you work for as a professional? Okay, are you clean, neat? And by the way, we have something in our possession that gives the same credibility. I mean, does a doctor, before they ever, hey, come on in, Chris. Before a doctor ever speaks, do they have credibility? Yeah, because we assume those things. We assume education, right? We got one over there or right here. So we assume some credibility automatically. When you walk into the house, you have a test kit. Okay, that gives you that same credibility before you ever say a word. Now I know that there are an awful lot of sales professionals out there that just carry in the little kits, hardness iron, pH. They carry it in a briefcase, and they do really well. They close a lot, stuff like that. We're going back to the basics. Okay, I'm saying, go back all the way back to when the first time you took that test kit into the house, or not even the first time you took it into the house. The first time you saw it. Do you remember the very first time you saw it? Do you remember the first time you saw your test kit? What was it like?
Wow.
Wow, I'm going to learn how to do that. Brian, this is fairly recent for you. What did you think? Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It's a chemistry set. There's a lot of stuff in there. Every single one of your customers have that same reaction. Okay, wow, you know how to use that. Now, what would you think if you went to the doctor and the doctor had dirt smudged all over his white smock, or he had a stethoscope, but it stuff all over it. Maybe he didn't know which end to put in his ears and what to do with it. What would you think about what would happen to his credibility? It would start to plunge pretty quickly, wouldn't it? Okay. What happens when you don't know how to do the test in your test kit, or when your test kit is filthy from the previous test? When your bottles and flask and everything are all trashed out, what happens to your credibility? Okay, so here's the first way you can begin to emulate that professionalism. Okay, think about your if you want to be a professional, emulate what other professionals do, and that's just kind of an example. Okay, so see yourself as a professional. So what is a professional? We already talked about attire. Knowledge. How much knowledge? You guys are here. That's a good step. But and this is a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer this out loud. But are you reading the industry literature? Do you know what's happening? Anybody know what Google alerts are? Okay, Google has this thing where for free you can sign up, put in a keyword, and every day or whenever you choose, get alerts on what's happening around your area. So I have Google alerts set up for pretty much every manufacturer that we work with. All of our clients have Google alerts. I have Google alerts for water plus the town name that I'm in, so that I get these emails. So now sometimes if you just put like a Google alert on water, sometimes because it searches out for that keyword, and sometimes you'll get a message that simply says, mayor in hot water, or something like that. So you can kind of go through and just base them on headlines, on what you want to do. But knowledge, are you WQA certified? Raise your hands in here if you have certification. Okay, don't forget to see Mark and get your points, because there's a couple. The ethics component that we're going to talk about throughout the day is qualifies for continued education points, so you'll get that. Okay. If you're not, the WQA has come up with this new program called the MEP, Modular Education Program, which makes getting certified way, I can't say easier, but more thorough. I mean, it is easier in terms of not having to read those academic, but anybody trying to read those books? Those books are horrid. This new MEP program, it allows you to do it in a structured way, right on an iPad or on a computer, and I mean, it's way more, has way more credibility, but it's education, okay? It's education. How much do doctors get paid? We already said above average income. I read somewhere recently that the average water treatment sales professional or salesperson in this industry makes about $30,000 to $35,000 a year. That does not feel like an above average income to me. Okay, that in fact I know people do it, but I'd have a really hard time living on that. I'd struggle with that. So if you're not making an above average income, if that's where you're at, maybe you should evaluate your professionalism. Okay, what would you guys consider an above average income to be in general? Yeah, I would say starting at 60, 70, 80 is probably in that range. I would totally agree. If you're not there, then you got to sit down and figure out, can you be there where you're at realistically, or what do you need to do to to make that adjustment in your life, unless you want to be average. Okay, I can tell you I have a hard time working with average people. I need somebody that wants to take it to the next level, that wants to be that above average sales professional, or professional in general. Okay. How many hours a week do they work? Well, if you're in sales in this business and you're home every night, you're probably in the wrong business. Okay, because homeowners, I mean, it's hard enough. It has, it used to be when I first started in sales, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of adjusting things. It used to be when I first started, if you didn't close the sale that night, that you probably weren't going to get it. And it used to be that if it was a one-legger, everybody know the term one-legger? It used to be if it was a one-legger, you probably weren't going to get it. I don't know about you guys, but I've seen that change over the last decade. You got two people in the house working. Sometimes it's really hard to get that scheduled down where both people are there. And I think that people they're thinking about it. They close a lot more now after the fact than they used to when I first came in sales. Used to be if you didn't close it that night, it was done. Have you guys seen that same trend? Kind of that same thing. I still think it's better if you can close it that night, and it's certainly better if you have both homeowners there. But if you're at home at 5 o'clock every night, you probably have a lot of one-leggers. If you're not willing to work Saturdays, you probably have a lot of one-leggers. Okay, that's the job. That's what we do. If you want to increase your sales, you want to be a professional. Look at other professionals. Doctors are not home every day at 5 o'clock. Okay, how often do they practice and train? You guys, how long has it been? I mean, I love that you guys are here. This is practicing and training. But how often have you ridden with one of your team members? Ridden with one of the other sales guys to see what they do? When's the last time you took a digital recorder in and asked the homeowner? Ask him. Say, Chris, you know, I've been making sure that my phrasing and wording is okay. Is it all right if I record myself while I give this presentation to you? And then listen to it. I can tell you, a homeowner, I have done that a lot of times, and I've never, ever had a homeowner say, no, I would rather you didn't do that. In fact, I think they kind of like it because it shows that you're training and gives them credibility. And I will tell you what is the reason salespeople don't do it. First off, you may have stumbled across that 1 in a million customers that says, no, I'd rather you didn't do that. Okay, fine, don't do it on that one. Go to the next one and do it, okay? But I can tell you why salespeople don't record themselves and listen to it later. It's painful. And I know that because I've been doing this a lot. I've been in thousands of homes, and I'll record myself. I can promise you, I'll watch this as I'm going through and editing these videos, and I'm editing this, and I promise you there will be 50 things that I say today that make me go, ugh! I will totally cringe, and that is the way it is with sales appointments. But if it's making me go, ugh, then I need to know that I'm saying that, because we're creatures of habit. We kind of get in the same routine and say the same things in our presentations. And they can slowly change, you know, and morph into something different. You need to know what that is. That's practice and training, okay? Make yourself a professional. What other things could you do as a professional? Anybody else have any ideas? I mean, think about the professionals. What else? Yes, sir?
Common courtesy.
Yeah, learn respect. You know what? One of the best sales classes I ever took, was a parenting class that I did not take this class because as a sales class, but there was a parenting class called Parenting by Love and Logic. And I took that, and this class is all about showing respect to your kids and also accountability and holding them accountable for their own actions. And I left that going, wow, what a great sales class. Because that's what, anybody parents in here? Any parents? Isn't parenting all about sales? To get your kids to clean their room and to do all this stuff, it's sales. And if you know, maybe if your kids are acting out, it's because you suck as a salesperson. I mean, it could be that. Maybe, I'm just saying maybe.